I didn't expect my own family to turn against me over a single decision. One quiet refusal, and everything I thought was stable collapsed without hesitation. The shock hit fast, but the pain settled slower, pulling apart every belief I had about loyalty. Their silence cut deeper than their words, but it also revealed something I hadn't seen before: what they truly valued. Being pushed out should have broken me, yet it only sharpened the truth they never wanted to face. They thought I would disappear, that I would stay small, that I wouldn't fight back. But the moment the firm's leadership turned toward me, everything shifted. And when they came crawling back, desperate for what they had thrown away, I knew exactly what needed to happen next, right as chapter 1 begins. I still remember the exact moment the world I thought I belonged to snapped in half. It wasn't loud or dramatic the way people imagine betrayal. No shattering glass or echoing fight. It was quieter than that, almost calm, the kind of calm that only shows up right before everything inside you shifts, never going back to how it was. I was standing in my parents' kitchen, holding the letter that had taken me years to earn. The letter that confirmed my position at the firm, the position that came with the $780,000 salary, the one that would change the direction of my life, the one I had fought for while everyone assumed I would fail. My sister leaned against the counter like she already owned the place, her hand outstretched, waiting for something that didn't belong to her. She didn't even ask. She just stood there with that familiar, polished confidence she'd grown up wearing like a tailored coat. "Give it to me," she said, as if I were a clerk handing over a misplaced document. My parents stood behind her, expressionless in that way they always were when it came to her, calm and certain. They didn't need to say anything. Their silence told me the entire plan had been agreed upon long before I ever walked into the room. For a moment, I just stared at the three of them, trying to understand how they had rehearsed this without me noticing. How they had decided my success wasn't mine, that it belonged to the daughter they'd chosen long before I was old enough to understand the rules of our house. My sister didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She didn't even pretend to soften it. She simply repeated, handed over, as though I were the one being unreasonable for hesitating. And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. She had always been the center of their world, the one they protected, supported, and praised. I was the one they told to be grateful for what I had, even when what I had was silence and long hours and expectations so twisted that they became my spine. But this, taking the position I'd earned, using my name to secure a level of credibility she never worked for, this was a different kind of line. So I folded the letter, slipped it into my bag, and said the first word of the afternoon: no. The air shifted. Not in the dramatic way storms roll in. No, it was smaller, almost invisible. My sister's eyes narrowed the way they did when she didn't get her way, a quiet flicker of annoyance that always seemed to rearrange the room around her. My mother's shoulders tightened, her lips pressed together in a thin, disapproving line, as if I had embarrassed her in front of an audience that wasn't even there. My father didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. His silence was a verdict. "You're being selfish," my mother said. "You know your sister needs this more than you." Needs. That word hung like a hook. My sister needed prestige, not stability. She needed admiration, not opportunity. But it didn't matter. When it came to her, they turned need into entitlement. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain how long I had worked for this, how many nights I'd spent at my desk trying to prove that I deserved it. I didn't remind them that they were the ones who expected me to achieve something significant, only to recoil when I actually did. They wouldn't have listened. They never did. So I pushed my chair back and walked out, leaving behind the kitchen, the house, the conversations I'd been repeating my entire life just to be heard. I didn't slam the door. It closed behind me with a soft click, like it always did. My silence had never been loud enough for them to notice. The next morning, the first message came from my father. Short, cold, final. "Return your keys. We've discussed it. You are no longer welcome here." No anger. No explanation. Only a decision delivered as if I were an overdue bill. Then came the others. My mother telling me she needed time to process my reaction. My sister sending a single line: "You'll regret this." There was no shock, no confusion, no sadness. And maybe the saddest thing was that I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, and felt nothing but a slow, quiet weight settling in my chest. Not grief. Not panic. Just the steady understanding that I had been erased in the exact moment I stopped being useful. At work, I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anyone that my family had removed me from their lives because I refused to give my achievements away like loose change. I didn't tell them that the house I grew up in had decided to act like I never existed. I kept my voice calm, my face steady, my focus sharp. And whenever I felt the sting of what had happened, I drowned it in the work that had always been the only thing that stayed solid under my feet. My CEO, Avery, was the only one who seemed to notice something was different, but she didn't pry. She watched me the way someone watches a storm forming at the edge of the sky, patient and curious, but not intrusive. So I worked, and waited, and let the silence settle. The announcement came 3 weeks later. Avery called a firm-wide gathering, the kind reserved for moments that shift the direction of the company. I didn't know why we were meeting. I didn't expect anything. I took my seat among the senior associates while the partners filled the front rows. Avery stepped onto the small stage with her calm, precise confidence, her eyes scanning the room. Then she looked at me, only for a second, but long enough for my heart to stutter. "I have an important announcement," she said. "One that reflects the work, integrity, and resilience of someone who has exceeded every standard in this firm." The room grew still. My sister, who worked in another division, wasn't supposed to be there. But she was, standing near the back, watching. Avery continued speaking, but I only caught pieces of it: dedication, leadership, exceptional performance. Words people dream of hearing, but that felt unreal drifting through the air toward me. Then she said my name, clear and steady. "We are proud to name her the youngest partner in the history of this firm." The applause erupted. Chairs shifted. People leaned forward to look at me. My pulse dropped into a slow, controlled rhythm. I stood, unsure if my legs would carry me. I walked toward the stage through a tunnel of stunned faces, some supportive, some calculating. I felt their eyes follow me, but my gaze stayed locked on Avery's. She shook my hand, and for a split second, I saw something in her expression: approval, yes, but also recognition. Recognition of something she knew I hadn't said out loud. After the ceremony, while people gathered around me with congratulations and questions, I saw them. My parents. My sister. Standing just inside the entrance, stiff and uncomfortable, their expressions too hopeful, too forced, as if they had rehearsed a softer version of themselves on the drive over. My mother stepped forward first, smiling in a way I hadn't seen since childhood. "We're proud of you," she said, as though the last month had been a dream she could dismiss. My father nodded, his voice gentler than it had been in years. "We want to talk." My sister didn't speak, but her eyes stayed fixed on mine, searching, calculating, already rebuilding her position in her mind. I didn't answer. Not yet. Not there, surrounded by people who believed my story was just beginning, unaware that the real part, the part that would redraw every line, had already started. Avery approached, her voice cool and steady. "Everything all right here?" she asked, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she wanted them to hear the question. My parents straightened. My sister glanced away. I felt the shift begin again, slow and quiet, the way tides change without making a sound. I turned to Avery. "Actually," I said, "there's something we need to discuss." And their faces changed. Not with understanding, with fear. Chapter 2. When Avery led me into her office after the announcement, the noise from the celebration faded behind us, replaced by a quiet that felt too sharp to ignore. She closed the door with a calmness that told me she already understood more than she had said in front of the crowd. I stood near her desk, trying to steady the rush inside my chest. My family was still outside somewhere in the building, hovering like shadows waiting for a moment they believed belonged to them. Avery didn't sit. She watched me for a moment with that steady, measured focus she used when she was about to make a decision that would shift more than the room. "You handled yourself well," she said. Not warm, not cold, just precise. But something is unfolding beyond what I saw on that stage. I didn't try to hide it. There was no point anymore. "They cut me off," I said. The moment I refused to hand my position to my sister. The words felt strange coming out of me so simply, as if they weren't tied to years of quiet tension. Now they're here pretending nothing happened. Avery nodded once, not surprised. People show up when they think there's something to gain. She stepped closer to the window, watching the street far below. But this is your moment. And it won't be taken from you. She paused. So tell me what you want to do. For the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. It wasn't relief, not comfort. More like clarity settling in, a direction forming. I'm not letting them walk back in, I said. Not after everything they've done. Avery didn't smile, but her expression shifted in a way that felt like alignment. Good, she said. Because there's more happening behind the scenes than I could say publicly. She opened a file on her desk and slid it toward me. This is related to your sister. I froze. Her name was on the top page in clear, bold print. A formal summary. Performance reports. Internal notes from her division. Something tightened in my stomach. Avery continued, her voice steady. Her numbers have been under review for months. Inconsistencies. Claims she could not support. And repeated use of your credentials in her pitches. She looked at me directly. It seems she told people she helped you secure your position. For a moment, the room tilted. My sister had always carried herself with an ease I never had, but I hadn't expected this. She had used my work, my name, my achievements to build her own image inside the company. Avery watched my reaction with careful patience. We've been collecting information. But now that you're partner, she said, it will be handled differently. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My sister had stood behind me all those years while I pushed through the work she didn't want to do. And all along, she had been feeding off my progress like it belonged to her. A knock at the door broke the moment. My assistant stepped in. Your family is waiting in the lobby, she said. They said it's urgent. Of course they did. Avery nodded toward me. Go, she said. Not for them. For control. She gave me one last look. But if anything escalates, come back here. When I stepped out of her office, the hallway felt different, brighter, louder, almost pressing against me. And then I saw them. My mother sitting on a bench with her hands clasped, my father standing beside her with that calm, practiced posture he used whenever he wanted to appear reasonable. My sister was near the wall, arms crossed, gaze fixed on me with a tension that looked like frustration bleeding into worry. My mother rose the moment she saw me. We were waiting for you, she said, as if the past month hadn't happened, as if the messages they sent could be swept under a rug. We want to talk privately. I kept my distance. About what? My father cleared his throat, trying to guide the moment. We misunderstood your reaction before, he said. It was a stressful day. We shouldn't have acted so quickly. My sister stepped forward, choosing her words with calculated calm. We're family. We shouldn't let one decision ruin everything. Her voice held a faint tremor she tried to hide. I studied them, the sudden softness, the new warmth, the shift in tone. None of it was real. It didn't even feel rehearsed. It felt desperate. And that desperation told me something was unraveling on their end faster than they expected. You erased me from the family, I said. You didn't hesitate. My mother shook her head. We acted out of fear, she said. We thought you were forgetting where you came from. Your sister was struggling. We wanted you to support her. There it was. The same line. The same excuse. The same belief that my achievements existed for them to redistribute. I'm not your solution, I said. Not anymore. My sister stepped closer, lowering her voice. You don't understand what's happening at work, she whispered. People are talking. She glanced around the lobby. Some of the directors are asking questions about my reports. I just need a little help fixing things. Your partner now. You can explain. And finally, the real reason surfaced. I didn't react. I didn't show anger or satisfaction. Just silence. Her voice broke slightly when she added, please. My father straightened, trying to regain control. You're in a powerful position now, he said. And your family should stand with you, not against you. The words were meant to sound supportive, but they came off like a request wrapped in a warning. Before I could respond, Avery appeared at the far end of the hallway. She didn't interrupt. She didn't approach. She simply watched. And my family noticed. My sister stiffened. My mother clasped her hands tighter. My father cleared his throat again, suddenly unsure of the ground he stood on. I kept my voice quiet. This conversation is over. My sister's eyes widened. You don't mean that, she said. You can fix this. I'm not fixing anything, I said. My mother took a step toward me. You can't do this to us. I held her gaze. You did it to yourselves. Avery walked toward us then, slow and deliberate. Is everything resolved? She asked, looking directly at me. I nodded. Yes. My family's expressions shifted in unison: confusion, disbelief, something close to dread. Avery gestured toward her office. We have a meeting, she said. As I followed her down the hall, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel their panic hanging in the air like a closing door. Inside her office, Avery waited until the door shut before speaking. We're moving forward with the internal review, she said. Your sister will be notified within the week. I didn't react outwardly, but inside, everything stilled. You didn't ask me if I wanted that, I said. She nodded. You're right. So I'll ask now. She paused. Do you want this to proceed? This wasn't a question about policy. It was a question about direction. About whether I was ready to step into the role that had been pushed onto me long before this day, the one where I didn't shrink or soften. I met her eyes. Yes. Avery closed the file. Then be prepared, she said. Once this begins, things will surface you may not expect. That night, I returned to my apartment with the heaviness of the entire day pressing at my back. My phone lit up with message after message from my family, long explanations, sudden apologies, promises they never made when it mattered. I didn't respond. I let each notification flash and disappear. But the silence didn't last. 2 days later, as I stepped out of a strategy meeting, my assistant rushed to me with urgency in her voice. There's something you need to see, she said. She handed me a printed document, fresh from the internal compliance office. It was a record. A signed submission from my sister. Using my name. Using my credentials. Using my signature. Only it wasn't mine. And right at the bottom, in a clean, unshakable line, was the timestamp, dated from the week my family cut me off. For a moment, I couldn't move. My assistant whispered, the board just requested an immediate session. I held the paper in my hands, feeling the weight shift again, heavier, deeper, sharper than before. This wasn't about family anymore. This was about fraud. Avery appeared in the doorway, her expression controlled but serious. They want you inside. I walked into that boardroom knowing something had changed. Not around me. Inside me. And as the doors closed behind me, I realized this chapter wasn't the storm. It was only the pressure before it. And the moment I took my seat, the board chair looked at me and said, we need your statement regarding your sister's actions. Everything went silent. Everything locked into place. Chapter 3. The boardroom felt colder than usual, the kind of cold that settles in once everyone realizes the conversation ahead cannot be softened or delayed. Every seat was filled, every face tightened with the restrained focus of people preparing to dissect a problem that could damage the firm if handled carelessly. I walked to the end of the long table, the document still in my hand, the one that carried my sister's forged signature of me like a quiet imprint of everything she had taken and everything she still expected to get. The chair spoke first. We need clarity, he said, folding his hands. This document was submitted under your name. We require confirmation about its origin. There was no hesitation inside me, no confusion, no fear. The moment felt like the last step of a path that had been leading here long before today. I placed the paper in front of them. I did not sign this, I said. I did not authorize it. And this is not my work. A low murmur moved across the table. One of the directors leaned forward. You're certain? Yes. Avery stayed silent, watching me with a steady confidence that felt like a quiet anchor. She didn't guide me, didn't push. She let me take control of my own truth. The chair studied the document. This was tied to a report from your sister's division, he said. If this is fraudulent, the implications are significant. I nodded once. She has used my name before, I said. Not with my consent. The directors exchanged looks, not shocked, but troubled. They had already suspected this. My confirmation only aligned the pieces. We have more, another director said. She opened a file at her side and slid several pages forward. Additional records came in this morning. Patterns of duplication. Repeated use of your credentials. Mismatched timelines. I didn't touch the papers. I didn't need to. The weight of what they contained hung in the room like a final, undeniable truth. The chair turned to me again. In cases involving internal misconduct, especially falsification, the board requires a statement from the party whose name was used. He paused. Do you wish to proceed? The question wasn't procedural. It was final. It was the door between the past I had lived in and the future I had earned. Yes, I said. The chair nodded. Then we will begin the official process. The session continued for another hour. They asked for timelines, details, confirmation of my work methods. Everything was direct, precise, necessary. I answered calmly, not to discredit my sister, but to tell the truth in the clearest way possible. When it ended, the chair stood. We'll notify your sister for questioning, he said. Today, I left the boardroom with a quiet stillness inside me. Not victory, not relief, just steadiness. The kind that comes when everything finally aligns with what you've known all along. In the lobby, my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Another from my father. Several from my sister. I didn't open any of them. I walked out of the building into the daylight, feeling the air hit my face like a shift in direction. By early afternoon, the storm reached them. My sister showed up at the firm without warning, moving through the hallway with the stiff posture of someone bracing for impact, but pretending everything was fine. She spotted me near the elevators and hurried over. What did you tell them? She asked, her voice low and thin. The truth. Her breath caught. You could have spoken to me first. You forged my name, I said. There was nothing to discuss. She opened her mouth, searching for something to say. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. It went exactly as far as you pushed it. Her eyes darted around the hallway, as if hoping someone would intervene, someone who still believed the version of her she wanted the world to see. But no one stepped forward. A compliance officer appeared. They're ready for you, he said. Her hand trembled slightly as she turned away. I didn't follow. I stood where I was and watched her walk down the hall toward the room where everything she had hidden would finally surface. The hours that followed were slow and heavy, the kind of hours where every minute feels stretched thin. I stayed in my office, reviewing work I could barely focus on. Avery came in once and placed a folder on my desk. It's almost finalized, she said. What happens after they complete the review? I asked. They will make a decision, she said. But based on the evidence, you already know what that decision is. Near evening, the board sent a message to all partners. Emergency session. Mandatory attendance. The moment I entered the room, I knew it was over. My sister stood at the far end, her posture tense, her hands clasped tightly. My parents were beside her, both appearing smaller, strained, as if the ground beneath them had shifted too suddenly to steady themselves. The chair addressed the room. After reviewing the evidence, he said, and after speaking with the involved parties, the board has reached a decision. My sister lifted her chin, trying to hold her composure. The actions taken under your name, he continued, looking at me, were unauthorized. The signatures were falsified. The reports were intentionally misrepresented. My mother flinched. My father's jaw tightened. My sister closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with a forced steadiness. The chair continued, turning toward her. Due to the severity of the misconduct, the board is terminating your position effective immediately. Further action may be taken pending legal review. The room fell silent. My mother stepped forward. You can't do this to her, she said. The chair didn't answer. My father tried to intervene. This must be a misunderstanding. The chair looked at him with a calm finality. The evidence is clear. My sister didn't speak. She stared at the floor with a stillness that looked nothing like the confident woman who had demanded my offer letter weeks ago. Something inside her had cracked, not loudly, not visibly, but unmistakably. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't feel triumph. Only completion. The truth stood in the room without needing anything from me. When the meeting ended, my parents rushed toward me. My mother reached out first. Please, she said. Help her. Tell them she didn't mean to harm you. My father added, "You're in a position to fix this. You can protect her." I looked at them, truly looked, and saw something I had never seen before. Not dominance, not certainty, but the realization that for the first time, they had no power over the story. "You chose your side," I said quietly. "And this is the result." My sister stepped forward, her voice unsteady. "I only wanted to keep up. I wanted them to see me the way they saw you." "They never saw me," I said. "Not until today." She didn't reply. She just stared at me, the truth finally settling between us. Heavy, irreversible. Security escorted her out gently, not with force, but with the quiet firmness reserved for situations that need dignity even in their ending. My parents followed, calling after her, leaving me standing alone in the hallway. Avery approached, her expression thoughtful. "This wasn't about revenge," she said. "It was about truth." I nodded. I didn't need to explain anything. As I walked out of the building for the last time that evening, the sky had darkened, and the lights from the city reflected across the windows like shifting traces of everything that had happened. I stepped onto the sidewalk, letting the night settle around me. For the first time in my life, I felt the world quieten without demanding anything from me. No more proving. No more explaining. No more shrinking to fit inside a place that never wanted me whole. The silence wasn't empty. It was mine. And as I walked forward, I understood something with absolute clarity. There are endings that feel like loss. And there are endings that feel like a door opening. This one opened so wide it felt impossible to look back.